These people are totally un-Australian.
It was a coordinated protest spanning 3 states.
Vegan has shut down streets and abattoirs.
These people who do these sorts of things, they should be locked up.
The protest comes as a rising number of Australians are becoming vegans, particularly women. But what are the health issues to consider before you go about removing all animal products from your diet?
The STEM questions I used to develop my knowledge and research were broad, but enabled me to gain an understanding for the many opinions and perspectives regarding whether animal products are needed in our diet. A question I investigated was, why are there so many different diets promoted and recommended? This question helped me with my overall research because I discovered how much conflicting information there is accessible online regarding good nutrition. Whether it's weight loss, improving physical performance, or an attempt of delaying the effects of aging, there are millions of suggestions and guides available that can lead people to think there are alternatives to consistent healthy eating that can achieve great results in a short amount of time. However, these conflicting, also known as fad diets, can cause many health problems, such as nutrient deficiencies, weakness, and fatigue. However, after extensively researching the most promoted diets available, it was clear the Mediterranean diet is considered to be the healthiest diet of all.
This style of eating emphasizes cutting back on saturated fat and red meat and sugar, and it really emphasizes lots of fresh fruits and vegetables and seafood and nuts and whole grains, olive oil, and yes, even a glass of wine.
Experts say the Mediterranean diet is easy to stick to, promotes overall health, and can even prevent chronic disease.
It also snagged top spots in lists like the best diabetes diets, the easiest diets to follow, and the best diets for healthy eating.
I did some research and I found that there is a common misconception that suggests living on a Mediterranean diet would consist of eating a large number of animal products, which is not at all the case. The general recommendation is to consume meats up to once a month, suggesting meat is not relied on as a nutritionally valued food source. However, this does not include seafood. It is recommended to consume seafood up to 2 to 3 times per week, along with eggs and dairy consumed anywhere from several times per week to once weekly. With this information, I began to draw my focus to why animal products are enjoyed in moderation rather than daily. I started by researching the health risks associated with consuming meat and discovered a lot of confronting information. I tried my best to avoid biased information to ensure I wasn't looking at inaccurate studies.
When our vegetarian ancestors started eating meat around 2 million years ago, it wasn't just because animals taste great, it was pure necessity. Climate change made many of the plants our ancestors relied on less available, and meat bridged that gap. From the discovery of fire at the latest, meat became a staple of the human diet. But over the last few years, eating meat has increasingly been associated with health risks like heart disease, certain cancers, and an early death. So, how unhealthy is meat really?
According to the World Health Organization, adult men and women should eat between 0.8 and 0.9 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight.
We have all been told that animal flesh is an essential part of a healthy diet, but meat consumption has been associated with almost all the major diseases. Meat is high in fat, saturated fat and cholesterol, which will increase the risk of heart disease and can cause other serious health problems like diabetes. It is high in animal protein, which is far too acidic for the human body and has been linked to kidney disease, cancer and osteoporosis. Most meat also contains antibiotics and growth hormones like estrogen and testosterone, which can promote cancer growth. And fish is also contaminated with mercury, which is toxic and can cause brain damage and may also contribute to atrial fibrillation and fatal heart attack risk.
A lower risk of chronic disease, fewer allergies, fewer surgeries, we're talking fewer varicose veins and hemorrhoids, even fewer hysterectomies. And we're not talking just the big killers, right? Not just less heart disease, cancer. This is the longest study on vegetarians in human history. Not just less heart disease and stroke and high blood pressure and diabetes, but less diverticulosis, less, if you can read this, less diseases overall. Right? That's the side effects of a plant-based diet, less disease overall.
Animal proteins cause high levels of TMAO, which is trimethylamine N oxide. So when you eat animal proteins rich in choline and carnitine, the gut bacteria convert this into TMAO. TMAO is very inflammatory and damages endothelial cells and artery walls and causes widespread inflammation in the body. And high levels of TMO in the body also make it a lot easier for cholesterol plaque formation to occur. Therefore, if you eat a diet rich in animal proteins, you are at a significantly higher risk of having cardiovascular disease during your lifetime.
Eating large quantities of meat had been scientifically proven to increase the risk of disease. I then researched what meat does the most harm to our bodies.
Things get worse when we look at processed meat, though. Processing meat means adding certain chemicals by curing, smoking, salting, or fermenting, or in other words, making it delicious. Bacon, ham, salami, sausages, and hot dogs contain chemicals that are harmful for us, like nitrates and nitrites that can damage the DNA in our digestive system and lead to cancer. The WHO reviewed 800 studies over 20 years and concluded that processed meat is strongly linked to an increased risk of colorectal cancer. Each extra 50 grams of processed meat per day increases your risk of cancer by 18%. When it comes to cancer risk, processed meat is now in the same category as plutonium, asbestos, and smoking. The WHO highlights that its research is only about the question of whether or not something causes cancer and not to what extent. But processed meat may also significantly increase the chance of suffering from diabetes, strokes, and coronary heart diseases. It also makes a difference what sort of life our meat lived when it was still part of a living being. It's common to feed large amounts of antibiotics to livestock in order to prevent diseases which can spread antibiotic resistance. Combined, a high consumption of both red and processed meat could increase your chance of premature death by up to 29%. This means if your chance of dying is 3% this year, it's now 4%. This might not sound like a lot, but tiny percentages have a huge impact on societies of millions. They also seem harmless until they affect you.
Next, I tried to uncover the truth about eggs. Because it is such a controversial topic, I found some very interesting information.
We'll start with eggs. Are they good? Are they bad?
But what I will tell you is that, the U.S. dietary guidelines for Americans came out just at the end of 2015, and they now say that you should consume as little cholesterol as possible. And the average egg has about 200 milligrams of cholesterol, so that's one right there. Some very large studies and some meta-analyses, which are studies of studies, show that when you eat more eggs, you're more prone to developing diabetes or worsening diabetes, believe it or not. And so it seems that eggs are the most concentrated source of choline in the American diet, and that choline, in some studies from Harvard, appears to be linked to prostate cancer. In other studies, seems to be linked to colon cancer. And there's a whole body of evidence that's now emerging on all the different biomarkers and precursors in choline in particular. A study out of Harvard, just 2.5 eggs per week raises your risk of prostate cancer by 80%. So they have done surveys and analysis. The last one was of 34 countries, and they show that people who consume large amounts of choline, typically in the form of eggs, have much more cancer, particularly colorectal cancer.
Scientists asked college students to eat a large egg every day for 3 weeks. After the experiment, they ended up with higher LDL cholesterol. That's the bad cholesterol. Maybe the students didn't follow the instructions, or maybe they ate some other junk that raised their cholesterol levels. Who knows? Some nifty scientists, they gave people egg or egg substitute. Indistinguishable taste, but 4 times less cholesterol. Start people off with eggs for 4 weeks, their blood cholesterol level shoots up. Switch them to the substitute, their cholesterol drops. Do the experiment the other way around. Start them off with the egg substitute for 4 weeks, cholesterol goes down a bit from their baseline, switch to real eggs, cholesterol shoots up. We've also had confirmation in massive analyses of large numbers of rigorous studies that eating more cholesterol tends to raise our blood cholesterol levels.
Now it's time to uncover everyone's favourite food group. Well, not everyone.
65 to 75% of people in the world are lactose intolerant. We've only been consuming dairy for around 7,500 years, starting in Northern Europe. Since modern humans have been around for roughly 200,000 years, we can see that dairy consumption is a relatively new thing to our species. This is why certain parts of Africa and East Asia are up to 95% lactose intolerant still today.
There are a number of claims regarding the negative and positive health effects of milk. The negative ones cover a wide variety, from brittle bones to cancer and cardiovascular diseases to intolerance and allergies. So how do they hold up? Some older studies found a connection between milk and a high risk of breast, colon and prostate cancer. But meta-analyses found no impact on your cancer risk. On the contrary, the calcium in milk might even have a protective effect against colon cancer. Although this could be calcium in general, it's not clear milk plays a role in this effect. Only studies on prostate cancer showed an increased risk for people who consumed more than 1¼ litres of milk a day. But again, the association is inconsistent and other studies don't find any effect. All in all, the research seems to show that if you drink between 100 to 250 millilitres of milk per day, cancer is not a concern. Similarly, meta-analyses could not find any impact from milk or dairy products on your risk of heart disease, stroke, or your total mortality. Besides allergies and those suffering from lactose intolerances, the best-known negative effects of milk are probably acne and general discomfort after drinking milk or eating dairy products.
Dairy is associated with acne. Despite what your dermatologist may tell you, dairy is not good for those of you suffering with acne. Dairy increases the production of mTORC1. This increases the body's sebum production and sizes of sebaceous glands, which increases your risk of developing acne. This is why we see in various studies that milk and dairy consumption is positively correlated with an increased risk in acne.
Milk, no matter if it comes from mothers, cows, sheep, goats or camels, is a nutrient-dense food. It contains all necessary macronutrients and many micronutrients. Especially in regions where people struggle to get enough calories, milk can contribute to a healthy life and lower child mortality. For those living in the developed world, in general, milk is not harmful if you are not allergic or intolerant to it. Especially for children, it's a good way to get large amounts of calcium, and for vegetarians, it's a good source of vitamin B12 and B vitamins in general. This does not mean there are not other alternatives with the same effect. You do not need to drink milk to be healthy.
Now that I have covered the health risks and some benefits of eating meat, dairy and eggs, is consuming animal products necessary to achieve optimal health? I'd say no. But because the topic is so controversial, the answer is still not set in stone. What I can confirm now is that all the nutrients humans need can be found in plant-based foods without the need for animal products. However, with saying that, eating these foods in moderation on a less regular basis has been suggested through studies to promote overall health without having negative effects, as long as a wide range of vegetables, fruits, grains, and legumes are incorporated into your diet to ensure all your nutritional requirements are met.